That's
so
why
the fact of the matter, I mean, they in the UFC.
Stephen A.
That's
Stephen
what I'm
A.
saying. I'm just using
My
your
guy.
analogy.
My
I'm just
guy.
using your analogy. That's what
That was the that was the point.
Yes,
the point I made was that's why we hold both of them in such high regard because they never lost in the UFC.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right. No problem. What I'm saying to you is this. In the end, when it comes down to, I got it. What I'm saying to you is this, and I'll pass it to D.O. This is RC talking, D.O. Think about this for a second. You trying to tell this is the part that gets tricky. So you trying to tell me you see a team get stomped like that, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, a team that's been to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls, that looks relatively invincible, and you see them get beat like that, and you as a potential future opponent don't look at them and say, aha, I'm seeing something today that I didn't see before. Not that you can't, of course they're still explosive, of course they're still great. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the fear factor that they may have instilled in you may have been compromised to some degree. A champion like Gronk pointed that out, and I agree with him.
I don't question the Chiefs' toughness. I question their ability to be explosive on offense.
Yeah.
I think there's real football questions about where their offense is right now because if you go back to last season, their inability to be explosive with the football down the field, and when they do, not hit it, that's more concerning to me than getting punched in the mouth. And so that's going to be the thing that would keep them away from the Super Bowl once again. It's not the physical, it's not the toughness. This defense got Chris Jones on it, man. This is a defense that has been probably one of the most physical defenses in football. So I have questions and foreshadowing concerns about the offense and the way that it plays football and their ability to go do that, but I don't question their toughness. And Stephen A., and respectfully to Gronk, stop using the Super Bowl as a comparison of, okay, this is how to go do it. One, that defensive line for Philadelphia had 2 cats go in free agency and get $100 million deals.
Yep.
With Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. 2, they had the defensive player of the year, or defensive rookie of the year, in Jalen Carter. So there's not a lot of defensive lines that are replicating the amount of talent that group had. Maybe Denver this year, maybe when it comes to that. So it's not like every defense that the Chiefs are going to play against has the horsepower when it comes to the Eagles. The Eagles were going to whoop up on a lot of offensive lines in that Super Bowl, okay? So I don't agree with the punch him in the face and they don't know how to respond thing. But I will say that this offense has question marks that if it does not get fixed and get better, the Super Bowl is not a conversation.
I think that's the conversation to be had, right?
Correct.
Whether Tyquan Thornton, who I saw in game 1, seemed to be the deep ball guy, especially once Xavier Worthy was injured, can he make some big plays for you? Can Hollywood Brown, who has the big 4th down catch,
Worthy get
can
healthy?
he start to push right?
What's Rice
what does Rashee Rice look like when he comes back? Those are the questions that we should be asking about the Chiefs. And this is the other question I have about them, Dan O and Stephen A. The loss of Justin Reed, who's now a New Orleans Saints,
defense
right?
didn't look great.
When you look at this defense and the way they're pieced together on the back end when it comes to their blitz responsibilities and coverage, that wasn't good.
Agree.
The open field tackling, the communication wasn't great. We haven't seen Steve Spagnuolo's defense look like that in a very long time. That was concerning to me. But it's not about physicality.
Well, here's the part that's making me laugh. See, I don't mind deferring to y'all when it comes to football. But when it comes to creating narratives, who do y'all think y'all should be deferring to?
Oh, no
that would
question.
Be my lane.
No
Okay?
question. You the
that
one.
would be my lane.
You
Okay?
the one.
And so there we go. So my point to you is this. We can get technical with it all we want to about, okay, I'm using the words like punk drunk, I'm simplifying it or whatever. Y'all go into the nuances of all with the expertise that y'all religiously provide us, which I'm very appreciative of. You just pointed out their secondary. You talk about how their defense was being compromised. You talk about open field tackling that wasn't sublime. I'm looking at the injuries last year. Rashee Rice, of course, you had him miss a few games. He missed about 13 to 15 games. Hollywood Brown missed some games. They missed a combined 28 games last year. Pacheco was out for about 10 games, okay? So there's a lot of things that went with the Kansas City Chiefs, and as we transition to this season, of course, we're able to look at those things. All I'm trying to say is, once upon a time, you're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's like, damn, we in for a long one because I don't know if we can take these boys. Whereas now you got some teams whose confidence may be foolhardily, but their confidence may have elevated because they see some vulnerabilities, like you guys have just pointed out, and they think they could be had. That's all I'm saying.
Roster-wise, for sure. Absolutely.
It's not a crime.
Roster-wise.
I think my biggest takeaway is the fact that Stephen A. said he's basically the same person as Jerry Jones. Just creating narratives. And that's how he wants to
Hey,
First of all, I'm not worth $16 billion. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm not worth $16 billion. Now, if I had that kind of money, then you're on to something. But even then, I'd be committed to winning. I'd sacrifice some of the dollars for winning. I'd sacrifice some of the dollars to win.
And I approve this message.
All right, let's leave it there. The Chiefs are 1.5-point underdogs at home this weekend. Coming up on First Take, the two NFC teams that lost Week 1 square off Sunday.
You know what fuels my tank is losing, all right? That fuels me because I don't like losing. Our players don't like it. And you go back to work, man, and you get back to the basics of what you do, man, and you hit it head on. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. We're all accountable. And if we want to win, we got to do the little things right and prepare that way. And then we got to play that way. So that's what gets me going.
It's hard not to like that guy, Dan. Bears or Lions, who needs to bounce back more?
The Detroit Lions. Not even close. Number one, this team's won 27 games over the last 2 seasons, 15-2 last year. Number two, they had an offense that was probably as fun to watch and created more advantages than any other offense in the NFL. They would create numbers advantage, leverage advantage, space advantage. Ain't none of that in Week 1. Jared Goff had 31 completions in Week 1. Those completions averaged 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. That's hard to do. Like, that's impossible to do. When Ben Johnson was their play caller, they averaged 5 plays a game that would go over 20 yards. They had 1 of them in Week 1. If they lose this game to the guy that used to be in their building and their offense looks the same, panic mode, alarms, internal conversations of, did we make the wrong choice? Have we totally messed up what we had built over the course of a couple years? It matters to Chicago. If Detroit falls 0-2, it's complete panic mode.
Well, for me, the Detroit Lions don't need hope because they have belief, because they have evidence.
Okay.
The Chicago Bears have no evidence that they're in the right place. The Chicago Bears have no evidence that the Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams marriage will bear fruit. Now, what I do know is in seeing Caleb Williams and talking to Caleb Williams, he believes. I do know the people in the Chicago Bears building, they believe. Ben Johnson has a true and proven way to coach offense that we know works in the NFL. But when you start that game against the Minnesota Vikings in the way that the Chicago Bears started, when you're playing as efficiently as Caleb Williams is playing, you want to see that continue. But you want to see it continue when adversity hits, right? It's about, we watched J.J. McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell in the face of adversity find their best selves. Now we need to see Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson do that. Caleb Williams is one of the most talented players we've seen coming out of college at that position in a long time. Now we need to see the professionalism. Now we need to see the execution. And we saw it early in that game, and then it started to fade. And then on the other side of the ball, now with Jalen Johnson back, can you go out and get enough stops to provide yourself opportunities to win? And what sort of leader of men, what sort of delegator is Ben Johnson? And we have to find that out each and every week. The people in Detroit, they freaking know it. You heard what Dan Campbell said. We got to get back to the basics because they know what the basics are. This team won 3 games his first year. And like Dan said, they won 27 in the last 2.
I disagree with you, RC. But the reason I disagree with you is because we're not expecting much from the Chicago Bears. We're hopeful. We look at Caleb Williams. We look at Ben Johnson being your new coach. They got a rookie coach. They got a rookie offensive coordinator. They got a quarterback playing his 18th game under his 3rd head coach and his 4th offensive coordinator. And the level of expectations for the Chicago Bears compared to a Detroit, a Green Bay, lesser to a degree with Minnesota with J.J. McCarthy. I think that's what Chicago is working with. In the case of the Detroit Lions, I have to agree with D.O. here because I'm thinking about what their offense was like over the last 3 years compared to what we saw in Week 1. This, in terms of scoring and in terms of yards accumulated over the last 3 years under Ben Johnson, nobody did it better than the Detroit Lions, okay? In terms of all-purpose yards, you had 2 guys at the wide receiver spot that had over 1,000 yards and 2 running backs that had over 1,000 all-purpose yards. And then you're looking at that, and then you're going into week 1, you score 6 points until the last minute of the game. You only convert 5 of 15 third downs. Your running back tandem in Montgomery and Gibbs, who were considered elite, averages 2.2 yards per carry for the game and accumulates less than 50 yards combined. This is incredibly alarming when you look at the Detroit Lions because of the expectations that we have with them. So I look at them and I say, so in terms of a team that needs to bounce back, Detroit needs to go out there and remind a team like Chicago, there's levels to this, and although you may be on the come up, you ain't on our level yet. Because if Detroit's offense looks anything like they looked in game 1, there will be panic in the Motor City. No question about that, because you don't expect that, especially against the Chicago Bears.
Okay, so again, I think it's Detroit. I would say 2 things. One, we absolutely have expectations for Chicago, Stephen A. Don't get that twisted. Just because they're not as high
I'm talking about comparison. I'm talking about in comparison.
Of course, but there's
I'm talking
still
about in comparison to Detroit. That's all I meant.
I do think a stark difference in the realities of 0-2 are this. Detroit falls to 0-2, and everybody feels it.
Yeah.
The head coach, the coordinators, the team, everyone feels it. Chicago falls to 0-2, it's going to be felt by one person. That's the quarterback. That will become a very heavy weight